Every summer, the Harmony Hills neighborhood hosted a 4th of July parade. It was a big deal. Kids decorated their bikes, adults waved flags, and the HOA, led by the ever-controlling Karen Whitmore, micromanaged every detail. This year was extra special for us because my 10-year-old daughter, Lily, was finally healthy enough to participate. Lily had been through multiple surgeries and used a customized purple wheelchair that matched her sparkly personality. Purple wasn't an HOA-approved color, but we didn't think that would be an issue. We were wrong. 2 weeks before the parade, I got an email from Karen with the subject line, "Parade regulations, immediate attention required." It read, "All decorations and mobility aids must conform to HOA-approved color schemes, red, white, and blue. Non-compliant items will not be permitted in the parade." She even attached a chart showing acceptable hues. I stared at my screen in disbelief. Her rules made no mention of accommodations for disabilities. I replied politely, explaining that Lily's wheelchair was medically necessary and not something we could simply swap or repaint. Karen responded coldly, "Rules apply to everyone. We must maintain aesthetic integrity." That phrase, aesthetic integrity, became her battle cry. We decided to proceed anyway. Lily had her heart set on the parade. She even made red, white, and blue ribbons to attach to her chair. "See," she told me with a smile, "now I match." I thought we'd be fine as long as we stayed respectful. But on parade morning, as we were lining up at the community park, I saw Karen standing at the front of the procession, clipboard in hand, glaring at us like we were criminals. "You've been warned," she hissed, blocking our spot in the lineup. "Remove that chair or leave." I tried to reason with her. Other neighbors started to gather, confused and embarrassed. My daughter looked up at me, her smile fading. I was about to speak again when Karen pulled out her phone. "She's calling security?" I thought, but then in one terrifying moment she reached into her purse and pulled out a gun. Everyone froze. Lily gasped, and just like that, everything changed. The moment Karen drew the weapon, everything around us went silent, except the deafening thud of my own heartbeat. Time slowed. My first instinct was to shield Lily, but she had already wheeled herself behind me, trembling. Her purple chair, bright against the sea of red, white, and blue, suddenly felt like a target. "Karen, put that down," someone shouted. A few neighbors stepped back. Some reached for their phones. Others just froze, shocked that a petty HOA dispute had escalated into something this dangerous. Karen's eyes were locked on Lily's chair, not even on my daughter. "This is exactly what I warned about," she barked. "If we start bending the rules for one person, soon there will be chaos. Purple today, who knows what tomorrow? Green? Orange? Glitter? This is a child." I yelled, trembling with rage. "She's 10. That wheelchair is part of her life. She's not violating anything." Karen took a step forward, her finger twitching near the trigger. "Rules don't make exceptions for feelings. This is a community, not a circus." Then, before anyone could stop her, bang. Screams erupted. Lily shrieked. I dropped to the ground with her, heart racing, hands shaking as I searched her body. Miraculously, the bullet had missed her by inches. It shattered a piece of her wheelchair, sending shards of metal and plastic flying. One of the fragments cut her arm, not deeply, but enough to draw blood. She looked up at me, wide-eyed and silent, her face pale. That's when chaos truly broke loose. Someone tackled Karen from behind. A retired Marine named Doug, he'd lived on our street for years, pinned her down and kicked the gun away. Another neighbor called the police. Sirens were already echoing in the distance. Karen screamed as they cuffed her. "You don't understand. I was protecting the neighborhood. I told you all. That chair is a violation." Lily was sobbing now, blood dripping from her elbow, as I wrapped her in my arms and held her tight. "You're okay," I whispered, more to reassure myself than her. "You're safe. I've got you." Neighbors gathered around us, horrified. Some had tears in their eyes. Others couldn't stop shaking their heads. But everyone knew. Karen had crossed a line no HOA rule could ever justify. That the police arrived within minutes, sirens piercing the festive atmosphere that had turned to horror. Officers rushed in, handcuffed Karen again, more securely this time, and read her rights. She screamed about bylaws, aesthetics, and community order even as they dragged her toward the squad car. I stayed by Lily's side as the paramedics examined her arm. The cut wasn't deep, but they treated it carefully. Lily was still too shaken to speak. Her sparkly parade ribbons were stained with a few drops of blood, and her broken wheelchair tilted awkwardly beneath her. "Does it hurt, sweetheart?" A kind EMT asked her. She nodded, eyes wet with tears. My throat burned as I tried to hold it together. "She didn't deserve this," I whispered. The news spread like wildfire. Neighbors who had gone home returned, disbelief written all over their faces. Fireworks had been canceled. Kids stood by their parents, clutching flags they no longer felt like waving. The police took statements from everyone who witnessed the shooting. Doug, the Marine who stopped Karen, told them what he saw. She didn't care about the girl. She saw a purple wheelchair and lost it. I told the officers everything from the warning emails to the moment the shot rang out. One of them shook his head. "Never thought we'd see this over parade colors," he muttered. The community was stunned into silence. People who used to nod politely to Karen during dog walks now talked about restraining orders. One elderly couple even said they'd vote to dissolve the HOA completely. Lily's wheelchair was loaded carefully into the back of the ambulance. I asked if I could ride along, and the paramedics nodded. As we pulled away, I glanced back at the crowd, neighbors, police cars, crime scene tape around a parade route. It didn't even look like our neighborhood anymore. One woman called out, "We're with you, Lily." Others joined in, clapping, crying. For a moment, Lily smiled. But behind her eyes, I saw it. Something had changed. A part of her innocence had been shattered, like the wheel on her chair. And as I held her hand, I realized this wasn't just about a parade anymore. This was going to be a fight for justice. By the next morning, our quiet suburban street was the top story on every local news channel, and even a few national ones. Headlines blared. HOA leader shoots child over wheelchair colors. Parade turns violent in Harmony Hills. Outrage as disabled girl targeted by HOA president. Reporters gathered near the entrance of our neighborhood, swarming anyone willing to speak. Our house, however, was off limits. I put up a sign, "No comment, child recovering." We needed time to breathe, but peace wouldn't come easily. Detectives from the city's Special Victims Unit knocked on our door that afternoon. They were calm, respectful, and thorough. "We're treating this as a hate crime and assault with a deadly weapon," one of them explained. "Do you know if Karen had a history of hostility toward your daughter?" I showed them the email thread, including Karen's demand to remove Lily's wheelchair from the parade. One detective sighed and said, "She's documented her own intent. That helps us." They took photos of the damaged wheelchair, the bloody ribbon, and even a copy of the HOA's absurd color compliance flyer. Every little detail added to their case. Later that evening, a neighbor, Shauna, knocked softly at our door. She was holding a binder. "These are copies of past complaints Karen filed against families in the neighborhood," she said. "She's been out of control for years. Maybe this helps." Inside the binder were pages of infractions Karen had cited. A mailbox 2 inches too tall, a garden gnome that violated neighborhood tone, a teen's basketball hoop she had forcibly removed. And most disturbing, multiple attempts to block ADA ramp installations, citing aesthetic disruption. It was a pattern, a clear, documented trail of discrimination and obsession with control. Meanwhile, Lily remained quiet. She barely touched her food and winced any time someone mentioned the parade. She clutched her stuffed animal, Mr. Fluffers, like it was her last lifeline. I knew healing would take time, not just physically, but emotionally. But seeing the community finally speaking out gave me hope. Karen had ruled through fear and manipulation for too long. Now, her own paper trail was turning against her, and we weren't going to stop. Not until Lily had justice. Karen was formally charged with felony assault with a deadly weapon, reckless endangerment, and a hate crime enhancement. Her mugshot, disheveled and defiant, made the front page of every local paper. But what truly shocked everyone was her reaction in court. She pled not guilty. Her defense attorney claimed the shooting was an accident, that she tripped and the gun went off. But no one bought it. Not the judge, not the community, and certainly not the dozens of witnesses who saw her raise the weapon, finger on the trigger, shouting about aesthetic violations. The prosecutor was relentless. During the bail hearing, she read excerpts from Karen's emails aloud. Disability or not, harmony matters. Uniformity prevents chaos. Children should be taught to conform, not to stand out. The courtroom was stunned. Karen didn't flinch. Her bail was denied. Outside the courthouse, a crowd had gathered. Lily didn't come, she was still recovering. But I spoke briefly at the podium, surrounded by neighbors. My daughter isn't a violation. She's a child with a disability who wanted to feel included in something beautiful. This wasn't about colors. It was about control. The crowd erupted in support, signs reading justice for Lily, and HOA is not above the law waved proudly. Even people from other towns showed up, sharing stories of power-hungry HOAs. This wasn't just our story anymore. It had become a symbol of something bigger. Back in Harmony Hills, change was brewing. A petition was circulating to remove the entire HOA board. In just 3 days, over 70% of the neighborhood had signed it. One evening, I received a call from the Department of Justice. They were launching a federal investigation into discriminatory practices by HOAs across the state, sparked by Karen's case. It hit me then. Something good might actually come from this nightmare. But at home, Lily was still hurting. She stared out the window a lot. She flinched at loud noises. Her new wheelchair had arrived, blue this time, because she didn't want trouble again. But it broke my heart. She had loved purple. "Can I ever go to a parade again?" she asked quietly one night. I knelt beside her. "Yes, sweetheart. And next time you'll eat it." She gave a small smile, and I made a silent vow. We weren't done yet. The petition to remove the HOA board moved from rumor to revolution in a week. Shauna and Doug organized an emergency homeowners meeting at the community clubhouse. Turnout was standing room only, with parents wheeling strollers and seniors balancing folding chairs. For the first time since Karen seized power, people spoke without fear. Testimony poured out. A landscaper fined for asymmetrical mulch. A veteran cited for flying a service flag larger than regulation. 3 families denied permission for accessibility ramps until they threatened lawsuits. Each story stacked like bricks in the wall coming down around Karen's legacy. State law allowed a recall with a 2/3 majority of dues-paying members present or voting by proxy. We had signatures, but we needed certified votes. Volunteers went door to door explaining what had happened to Lily and how the bylaws had been weaponized. Even households that never attended meetings signed proxy forms. By day 4 we'd crossed the threshold. The recall meeting was tense. The remaining board tried procedural stalling, questioning signatures, quorum counts, even stapling errors. Doug, reading from the statutes, shut them down point by point. When ballots were tallied, the result was decisive. 231 for removal, 19 against, 7 abstentions. Applause thundered. Some people cried. An interim steering committee was elected on the spot. Its first motions: suspend all aesthetic compliance enforcement pending legal review, adopt a temporary reasonable accommodations policy aligning with ADA guidance, authorize funds to cover Lily's medical and mobility equipment damages, and hire an outside mediator to help rebuild trust. All passed unanimously. When I wheeled Lily in to thank everyone, the room rose. Someone had brought purple ribbons. She hesitated, then let Shauna tie one to her new blue chair. "Both colors," Lily whispered. "Harmony, right?" The crowd repeated the word like a promise. Driving home that night, fireworks rescheduled by the new committee popped over the lake. Lily watched through the window, her reflection layered over the sparks. "Mom," she said, "maybe next parade everyone can decorate however they want, but with one matching thing like a ribbon so we're still together." I squeezed her hand. "We'll write it into the new rules." That idea, became the seed of the Harmony Inclusion Charter, a document we'd soon draft with disability advocates, veterans, and parents. What began as a purple wheelchair violation was turning into a community blueprint for dignity. Justice wasn't finished, but the neighborhood finally felt like ours again. For Lily, hope returned. The weeks after the recall meeting were a whirlwind of emotion and hard work. Lily's physical wounds healed quickly, but her spirit needed more care. We started family therapy, and I was amazed at how much trauma even a single moment could imprint on a child. She'd lost trust, not just in people, but in the idea that her world was safe. School was especially tough. Some kids didn't understand what happened and kept their distance. Others whispered or stared, but a small group of friends stood by her side. One day, her teacher read a story about acceptance and differences, sparking a class discussion about kindness and respect. Meanwhile, our new HOA steering committee began rolling out changes. Monthly meetings shifted from rigid, rule-bound lectures to open forums where everyone, regardless of age or ability, had a voice. We invited local disability advocates to train the board on ADA compliance and empathy. Slowly, the neighborhood's culture started to thaw. Yet, the hard truth remained. Karen wasn't the only problem. Her tyranny was a symptom of something deeper, a fear of change, a need for control, and ignorance about disability rights that many still held. We realized that true progress meant education as much as enforcement. The federal investigation advanced quietly but steadily. The Department of Justice contacted several HOA boards across the state, demanding records and promising oversight. Karen's trial date was set, and the community awaited justice with bated breath. One afternoon, Lily surprised me. She asked if she could speak at the next HOA meeting. "I want to tell everyone why colors don't matter, but kindness does," she said, her voice small but determined. I agreed immediately. Her bravery reminded me why we fought so hard. The night before the meeting, she carefully decorated her blue wheelchair with purple and red ribbons, a symbol of resilience. "It's not about fitting in," she said softly. "It's about being yourself." I hugged her tightly, proud and hopeful. Our neighborhood wasn't perfect yet, but it was learning. Healing was messy and justice was slow, but Lily had already started changing the hearts of Harmony Hills, one ribbon at a time. The day of Karen's trial arrived, and the courtroom was packed. Reporters, neighbors, and disability rights advocates filled every seat. Lily, now stronger and surrounded by friends and family, sat quietly beside me. Her wheelchair was decorated with purple and red ribbons, symbols of courage and unity. The prosecution laid out a compelling case. Witnesses testified about Karen's hostility, her obsession with uniformity, and the shooting itself. The emails and HOA documents painted a clear picture of discrimination and malice. Even Karen's own attorney struggled to explain her actions as anything but deliberate. Karen took the stand, her defiant posture unchanged, but her words faltered under cross-examination. She insisted the shooting was accidental, blaming stress and misunderstanding. The judge, however, was unimpressed. After deliberations, the verdict was unanimous, guilty on all counts. A wave of relief washed over the courtroom. Karen was sentenced to several years in prison and barred from holding any HOA or community leadership positions in the future. More importantly, her conviction sent a powerful message. Hatred disguised as rules has no place in our neighborhoods. Back in Harmony Hills, the community rallied to celebrate not just justice, but a new chapter. The Harmony Inclusion Charter was officially adopted, guaranteeing accommodations for all disabilities and fostering a culture of acceptance. The annual parade, once a battlefield, became a joyful event where diversity was celebrated with vibrant colors of every kind. Lily led this year's parade, waving proudly from her wheelchair, surrounded by neighbors cheering her name. Her purple ribbons fluttered in the breeze, shining bright under the summer sun. As I watched her, tears of pride and gratitude filled my eyes. What started as a nightmare had blossomed into a powerful story of resilience, community, and love. Karen's cruelty had tried to dim Lily's light, but it only made it shine brighter. Harmony Hills was healing, and so were we.